The justice system prevents justice. Our current so-called justice system is such an unenlightened, corrupt farce that the entire edifice should be relegated to the history books. Humanity desperately needs to reconsider the idea that justice is somehow served by systematically fining, caging, or killing criminals. The idea that we should pay and empower unaffected parties to deliver standardized punishments, and the idea that police are anything but violent and coercive policy enforcers of our statist mafia governments. Today, there are literally millions of laws and legislations on record in the United States alone, and under the current official edict, ignorance of these laws is no excuse for disobeying. Therefore, all citizens are legally bound under threat of theft, kidnapping, and imprisonment to read, remember, understand, and obey millions of ever-increasing laws, or else. Millions of nitpicking restrictions our nagging nanny state has decided us children must completely refrain from under any circumstance, or else receive severe punishment. Ridiculous things with no ill-affected parties, such as the consumption of cannabis, a naturally growing plant that governments all over the world have deemed evil enough to cage you in prison for decades, should you dare allow the weed's demon seed to take root in your soul. Such laws are nothing but anti-freedoms, written by people so far above the law they can write the laws. But surely we need some form of law and order, court system, and police protection. Everyone cries out in knee-jerk unison. Here is all we need. Common law courts, which settle lawful disputes between two affected parties regarding matters of injury, theft, or breach of contract. That is all. No state agents, district attorneys, or police enforcing statutes or codes. No maritime admiralty or other kangaroo courts. The only disputes which require the kind of mediation provided by courts and judges are those between two affected parties in the case of harm to one's person or property, theft, or breach of contract. The holy trinity of common law. Everything which requires court mediation falls within these three simple categories, and anything beyond or outside these categories are victimless crimes involving no injured party and has no business being called law. By eliminating these millions of laws and leaving only 3 would so drastically reduce the amount of court cases per district per year that they could be run very cheaply in a volunteerist society. Eliminating these millions of laws would also reduce the amount of people in prison by over 90%. America currently houses 25% of the world's prisoners, and yet Americans themselves account for only 5% of the world population, over 2 million in a population of 300 million, meaning almost 1% of the entire US population is currently living in cages. And over 90% of these for victimless crimes.
Wow.
The insane way these people are being treated is disgusting, as society has turned a collective blind eye to their plight. Meanwhile, the injustice system also goes to great lengths protecting truly evil people from receiving what they deserve. Today, at the time of this writing in Thailand, a man shot and killed his wife point blank for ignoring him and chatting on Line Messenger too often. He then proceeded to kill his mother-in-law, and when his son came to investigate, he shot him too. He then fired another round at each of them to make sure they were all dead. When his daughter came home, he contemplated killing her, but after much begging and pleading, he decided to spare her life. Instead, he just stole the gold necklace from her to help finance his escape. When the police finally caught him, they forced a reenactment of the entire scene of the crime, as they always do here in Thailand. And 200 angry neighbors stepped in to try and hang him to death. It took 50 police officers to stop the 200 villagers from doing what all of them deemed just and necessary, which is banding together to end the life of this heartless psychopath who killed 3 members of their village. Had these 50 police state agents not been there to protect this murder of innocent women and children from his enraged community, this spontaneously formed jury of 200 of his peers would surely have hung or beat him to death. In a natural tribal society, that is certainly what would have happened. His community would have collectively decided his fate based on each member's willingness to forgive or to engage in some act or form of retribution. Now instead, he will be taken through the modern criminal justice system, which means rather than being hung or stomped to death by his legitimately livid peers, he is protected and caged by government mafia thugs, while all affected parties are dragged through years of appeals, draining everyone's savings, waiting for the final judgment of some Freemason in a white powder wig and black dress, banging a wooden hammer, yammering on about order and honor. The entire thing is a corrupt farce, as, for example, in the current case of 8 and 9-year-old satanic ritual abuse victims Gabrielle and Alessia Dearman. They are being raped and kidnapped by the very state police and social service workers who are supposed to be protecting them and pursuing justice. How can justice ever be served when the courts, lawyers, judges, and police are more corrupt than the average street criminals on trial? As I wrote in my book, Asbestos Head, laws leave crime victims powerless to right their own wrongs the way they see fit, and instead pay and empower unaffected people to enforce standardized punishments. If someone lies to, steals from, cheats, kidnaps, rapes, or murders someone I know, then my friends, my family, and I deserve to deliver the punishment. Not only that, but in these intense situations, my friends, my family, and I do not want to sit still and wait for cops to do the best they can with what law provides. We're going to do the best we can with what God provides and use our God-given freedom to enforce our own ethics. Whether it's retribution or forgiveness, justice should be whatever just us decide. Suppose I watch you kill my daughter. The law says for me to leave you be, call the police, collect evidence, consult a lawyer, then testify to a box of peers who'll hopefully lock you away through years of appeals until finally you get the death penalty or die of old age. If instead I do the natural thing in such a situation and kill you myself, then it's your daughter's turn to collect evidence, consult the lawyer, testify to a box of peers who will keep me in and out of appeals, each one feeding the system, paying police and judicial employee paychecks, greasing those greedy wheels of statist justice with years of our grief, just for doing the just thing. Furthermore, suppose I watch you kill my daughter, and instead of wishing you dead, instead of pursuing retribution of some sort, suppose I wish to take the highest moral ground and end the cycle of suffering, to stop the continuation of evil with my unconditional forgiveness. Suppose I wish to pardon you from all punishment. I wish you no harm, and that your family need not grieve the way ours does. If, after all, this I actually wish for your forgiveness, we'll find it's against the law. I have to destroy evidence, consult a lawyer, then testify to a box of peers that it's all insanity. Forgive those umpteen sardines and send them home. We love everybody, and we're so sorry. Please love us and leave us alone. Stop locking us up in courtrooms and let us determine our own misdemeanors. At least give us forgiveness as an option.